a chilling disaster unfolded in the skies over Washington, D.C. A mid-air collision between a military helicopter and a passenger jet sent both aircraft plunging into the Potomac River, claiming 67 lives in what is now the deadliest U.S. air disaster in nearly 25 years. What went wrong? Could this have been prevented? And why was air traffic control reportedly understaffed at the time? Stay with us as we break down everything we know so far about this devastating aviation tragedy. On the evening of Wednesday, a routine landing turned into a nightmare. American Airlines Flight 5342, a Bombardier CRJ-700, was on final approach to Reagan National Airport after departing from Wichita, Kansas. Just moments before touchdown, the plane collided mid-air with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. The helicopter, carrying 3 soldiers, was flying at an altitude of around 200 feet, a standard military operating height in restricted airspace. The commercial jet was descending at about 400 feet when the 2 aircraft tragically crossed paths over the Potomac River, just 3 miles from the White House. The collision sent both aircraft plummeting into the freezing river. First responders rushed to the scene, but by the next morning, officials confirmed the heartbreaking reality. There were no survivors. Among those lost were 60 passengers and 4 crew members aboard the flight, along with 3 Army soldiers on the helicopter. Many passengers were figure skaters, coaches, and families returning from the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita. Tragically, 2 of them were renowned Russian skaters, Evgenia Shishkova and Vadim Naumov, who had dedicated their lives to coaching young athletes in the U.S. The city of Wichita, a major hub for aviation, is now mourning not just the loss of its residents, but an entire community shaken by this tragedy. As investigators piece together what happened, several alarming factors have emerged. First, reports indicate that air traffic control staffing was not normal at the time of the crash. One controller was reportedly handling work typically assigned to 2 people, a major concern in such a high-traffic and highly restricted airspace. Second, investigators are examining whether the Black Hawk exceeded its altitude limit, potentially putting it in the path of the incoming jetliner. Army officials maintain that the helicopter crew was very experienced, but Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth acknowledged that altitude may have played a role in the tragedy. Finally, air traffic control radio transcripts reveal a chilling exchange just moments before impact. Controllers told the helicopter to pass behind the CRJ, but within seconds, disaster struck. As the nation mourned, the crash quickly became a political firestorm. President Donald Trump addressed the tragedy in a White House press conference, holding a moment of silence for the victims. However, his remarks soon shifted to blaming air traffic control staffing issues, diversity hiring policies at the FAA, and the previous administration's regulations. Meanwhile, officials from the FAA and NTSB pushed back, emphasizing that the investigation is ongoing and that speculation at this stage is premature. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy stated there are early indicators of what happened, but declined to go into details until the black boxes and flight data recorders are fully analyzed. This is the deadliest plane crash in the U.S. since 2001, and it raises critical questions about air safety, especially in heavily controlled airspace like Washington, D.C. While commercial air travel remains statistically one of the safest forms of transportation, this tragedy proves that even a small miscalculation in aviation can have catastrophic consequences. As the NTSB and FAA continue their investigation, the victims' families and the entire country are left demanding answers and accountability. 67 lives were lost in an instant, families shattered, a city mourning, and a nation looking for answers. We will continue following this story as more details emerge. What are your thoughts on this tragedy? Do you think this could have been prevented? Let us know in the comments below, and most importantly, let's take a moment to remember the victims and their loved ones.